Hi, Dr. Kylie Dodsworth here. Today I want to talk to you about the thyroid. So the thyroid gland sits in our neck and it makes a hormone called thyroid hormone, but in more detail it makes a particular hormone called T4. And when people have issues with their thyroid gland, the standard test we look at to diagnose that would be looking at the level of T4. But before we even get that being produced, we have a part of our brain called the pituitary gland, which makes a hormone called thyroid stimulating hormone, or TSH, which, as it suggests, is a stimulant for the thyroid gland. So TSH gets released from this pituitary gland in the brain to stimulate your thyroid, and what the thyroid gland does then is it combines iodine and tyrosine to make the T4 hormone. So T4 is literally tyrosine with 4 iodines attached to it. So when you have a standard blood test with a doctor, they might look at your TSH level, and they're assuming that if you've got a good production of thyroid hormone, the TSH level is only low because you just need a little trickle to maintain that healthy balance. If you've got a high level of TSH, then that means your body's stimulating really hard because you're not getting much output from your thyroid gland. So a high TSH is an indicator that you may not be making enough thyroid hormone. Now, when you release that T4 from your thyroid gland, it goes into your bloodstream, but it also travels back to the pituitary gland to say, yes, I've done a good job here. So that little loop of thyroid stimulating hormone, T4 production and release, feedback to the pituitary gland is what's normally looked at when people go to the doctor and they're getting tested for their thyroid hormone balance. Now the problem is that that's not the whole story. What actually happens is that the T4 then has to move through your body, and one of those iodines gets removed to make T3. Now T3 is actually what gets into the cells and makes everything happen. So T3 is the hormone of the thyroid end product, if you like, that gets into the cells and gives them the energy to do whatever they do. So thyroid hormone creates metabolism, which is the energy, or it's a bit like putting the coal on the fire to generate the steam or the electricity for the cell to do what it needs to do. So T3 is actually the one we want to know about. That's the one that does the work, but it's not picked up on or tested properly on standard tests. Now it gets even more complicated because the T4 has to become T3, and removing one of those iodines is done through an enzyme called deiodinase, meaning it removes an iodine. Now deiodinase needs zinc and selenium to be able to switch on and work properly. We also need other things to help that production of normal T3 as well, and that includes vitamin D and hormones including estrogen and progesterone, as well as a number of other nutrients, or what we call cofactors. So it's quite a complicated process. But here's another thing. Unfortunately, when we're stressed, we make a whole lot of cortisol, our stress hormone. And in the presence of high cortisol, or if we lower in the nutrients that switch on the enzyme properly, or if we have what we call antibodies to our thyroid, where we're actually attacking our own thyroid gland, that little deiodinase, that little enzyme, actually removes a different iodine. So T3 could be that one, which is the correct one. It's like cutting a key with that particular shape. That key fits a receptor like a lock and key and can then get inside the cell. But if you take off that one, you've got the wrong key. You can slide into the receptor but not unlock it. And while it's sitting in there, it's actually blocking that particular site, so the good stuff can't get in there. So that's called reverse T3. So that's actually a blocking hormone rather than an active hormone. So the balance between the good T3 and the reverse T3 has a major impact at the level of the cells and what's getting inside the cell and can work for your body. So if people are actually having issues with thyroid, the symptoms of hypo or underactive thyroid, tiredness, hair being thin or falling out, putting on weight or not being able to lose weight, feeling cold, feeling sluggish, brain fog, There's lots of reasons for a lot of those symptoms, but the thyroid can be one of those reasons. If all we're doing is testing the TSH level to see if it's high, low or normal, we're missing the point. If we're just measuring this in T4, we might still be missing the point. If you measure this in T4 and normal T3, you still might miss the point. You have to go on and also look at reverse T3, or at least consider its role, which is obviously going to be more produced when we're stressed, and most of us are really stressed. So looking at all of those levels makes a difference, and so seeking out a practitioner that can look at that level of testing for you will give you more answers to what's going on. If you're not making the right T3, we need to look at de-stressing. We need to look at supplementing zinc, selenium. There are some nice herbs that can help with the thyroid. We need to consider having iodine in our diet through our foods, or actually supplementing iodine. It's a really common deficiency. It's not in our soils very much, so it's not getting into our food chain very much. So there's a number of pretty key things we need to get right in order to have good, healthy thyroid function, which is the energy for the body. So be aware that there's a lot more to it than just a standard TSH test. So let's go on that journey if you need to, so we can create better health. If you've got any questions, then you can find me at the website below, and I look forward to seeing you next time. I'm Dr. Kylie Dodsworth. Bye for now.